How many hours of sleep did you get last night? 6, 5, maybe even 4. If you're like most people, you've probably convinced yourself that's enough. You tell yourself you'll catch up on the weekend, that you've trained your body to need less sleep, that you're just one of those people who can function perfectly fine on only a few hours of rest. But what if that's completely wrong? Now, what if every night you cut your sleep short, your brain is quietly paying the price? Your memory slowly gets weaker, your immune system becomes less effective, your heart works harder than it should, and little by little your lifespan may actually become shorter. It sounds dramatic, but according to decades of scientific research, it's true. Dr. Matthew Walker is one of the world's leading sleep scientists. After spending more than 20 years studying the science of sleep, he wrote the groundbreaking bestseller Why We Sleep. The book completely changed the way millions of people think about rest, because sleep isn't a luxury, it isn't wasted time, and it definitely isn't something you can simply catch up on whenever it's convenient. Sleep is one of the most powerful biological tools your body has for staying healthy, thinking clearly, and living longer. Today, we're going to discover why. Truth number 1. Sleep deprivation is a silent killer. Matthew Walker says the world is participating in one of the largest scientific experiments ever conducted. The strange part? Nobody volunteered for it. That experiment is chronic sleep deprivation. Since the Industrial Revolution, people have been sleeping less and less. Centuries ago, adults regularly got around 9 hours of sleep each night. Today, many people average only 6 or 7 hours. That may not sound like a huge difference, but your body notices every single missing hour. Research has linked insufficient sleep to higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, depression, anxiety, weakened immunity, and even certain types of cancer. These aren't random coincidences. Walker explains that sleep loss affects nearly every major system in the human body. One of the most fascinating examples comes from daylight saving time. In countries that move their clocks forward by just 1 hour in the spring, heart attacks increase by about 24% the following day. Just 1 hour of lost sleep. Then, when the clocks are moved back in the fall and people gain an extra hour of sleep, heart attacks drop by roughly 21%. That's the incredible power of a single hour. Now imagine there was a medication that could improve your memory, strengthen your immune system, protect your heart, help you maintain a healthy weight, improve your mood, increase your productivity, and potentially help you live longer. Would you take it? Of course you would. That medicine already exists. It's called sleep, and it's completely free. Yet millions of people ignore it every single night. Truth number 2. Your sleep has 2 essential stages. Many people think sleep is simply the time when your brain shuts down, but that's not what actually happens. According to Matthew Walker, your brain becomes incredibly active while you sleep. Sleep consists of 2 major stages. The first is non-REM sleep, often called NREM. The second is REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. Each stage serves a completely different purpose, and both are absolutely essential. During non-REM sleep, your brain acts like an expert librarian. Everything you learned during the day begins to get organized. New information moves from short-term storage into long-term memory. Connections become stronger. Experiences become permanent. That's why studying before a full night's sleep helps you remember far more than studying without sleeping afterward. Then comes REM sleep. This is where something even more remarkable happens. Walker describes REM sleep as overnight emotional therapy. While you're dreaming, your brain carefully revisits emotional experiences from your day. It processes painful memories. It softens their emotional intensity. It connects ideas that previously seemed unrelated. This is one reason why people often wake up with creative solutions to problems they couldn't solve the night before. Your sleeping brain continues working long after you've fallen asleep. Here's something most people don't realize. The first half of the night contains more non-REM sleep. The second half contains much more REM sleep. So when you stay up late and wake up early, you're not simply getting less sleep. You're losing a significant amount of REM sleep, the stage that's critical for emotional regulation, creativity, problem-solving, and mental health. That's why consistently sleeping only 5 or 6 hours doesn't just leave you tired, it leaves your brain unfinished. Walker argues that 8 hours of sleep isn't an unrealistic goal. For most healthy adults, it's a biological necessity. Truth number 3. Sleep is the secret behind better memory. Have you ever spent hours studying for an exam only to forget everything the next day? You probably blamed yourself. Maybe you thought you didn't study hard enough, but according to Why We Sleep, the real problem may have been something much simpler. You didn't get enough sleep. Matthew Walker describes an experiment involving 2 groups of students. Both groups learned exactly the same material. One group slept normally that night. The other group stayed awake. The next day, the students who had slept performed dramatically better, remembering roughly 20 to 40% more information. Nothing else changed, not their intelligence, not the amount they studied, just one full night of quality sleep. But here's what's even more surprising. Sleep is important before learning, not just after it. When you're sleep-deprived, a part of your brain called the hippocampus struggles to form new memories. Think of it like trying to pour water into a bucket with a giant hole in the bottom. No matter how much information you pour in, most of it leaks right back out. That's exactly what happens when you try to learn while exhausted. This is why all-night study sessions often backfire. Students believe they're gaining extra study time. In reality, they're reducing their brain's ability to absorb and store what they're studying. Imagine you're preparing for the biggest exam of your life. You have 2 choices. You can stay awake all night reviewing your notes, or you can study effectively, get a full night's sleep, and let your brain do what it was designed to do. Matthew Walker is clear about which strategy wins. Every single time, sleep doesn't steal time from learning. It completes the learning process. Without sleep, knowledge simply doesn't stick. Truth number 4. Your heart depends on sleep more than you think. Most people associate heart disease with unhealthy food, lack of exercise, or smoking. Very few people think about sleep. But according to Matthew Walker, sleep may be one of the most important factors in keeping your heart healthy. Research consistently shows that people who regularly sleep fewer than 6 hours a night face a significantly higher risk of heart disease and heart attacks. The scary part is that this damage doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, night after night, year after year, without you even noticing. Every time you sleep, your blood pressure naturally drops. Your heart finally gets a chance to slow down and recover after working all day. Think of it as your heart's nightly maintenance period. But when you don't get enough sleep, that recovery never fully happens. Instead, your heart keeps working under constant pressure. Your stress hormone, cortisol, also stays elevated for longer. Your blood pressure remains higher than it should. Over time, that extra strain begins to wear your cardiovascular system down. Walker also points to another disturbing Finding the World Health Organization has classified long-term night shift work as a probable carcinogen because regularly working through the night disrupts your body's natural circadian rhythm. Your internal clock evolved over millions of years to follow the cycle of daylight and darkness. When that rhythm is repeatedly disrupted, the consequences reach far beyond feeling tired. It affects hormones, cell repair, metabolism, and even your risk of developing serious diseases. The purpose of this research isn't to scare you. It's to remind you that protecting your sleep is one of the simplest ways to protect your heart. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do isn't another workout, it's simply getting to bed on time. Truth. Fact 5. Sleep is your immune system's greatest ally. Have you ever wondered why you always seem to get sick after several nights of poor sleep? That's not a coincidence. It's biology. Matthew Walker describes studies showing that people who consistently sleep well develop much stronger immune responses than those who don't. In one study, researchers gave participants a flu vaccine. The people who had been sleeping well produced a strong immune response. Those who had been sleep-deprived produced less than half the protective response. The exact same vaccine. Completely different results. Because your immune system does some of its most important work while you're asleep. Throughout the night, your body searches for viruses and bacteria. It repairs damaged cells. It strengthens immune defenses. And it prepares for future infections. When you cut your sleep short, you interrupt those essential processes. That's one reason you're far more likely to catch a cold after several nights of poor sleep. There's another interesting clue your body gives you whenever you have the flu or a fever. What do you want to do? Sleep. That's because your body knows exactly what it needs. Sleep isn't just rest. It's treatment. Healing happens most efficiently while you're asleep. So if you constantly find yourself getting sick despite eating healthy, exercising and taking vitamins, it may be worth asking a simple question. Are you actually getting enough sleep? According to Why We Sleep, no supplement can fully replace what quality sleep naturally provides. Truth number 6. Sleep may be the missing piece in weight loss. Many people believe weight gain is simply about eating too much and exercising too little. Those things certainly matter. But sleep plays a surprisingly powerful role as, well, Matthew Walker explains that sleep directly affects the hormones responsible for controlling hunger. When you don't get enough sleep, your body produces more ghrelin, the hormone that makes you feel hungry. At the same time, it produces less leptin, the hormone that tells your brain you're full. The result? You feel hungrier than usual. You crave larger portions. And even after eating, you don't feel completely satisfied. It isn't a lack of willpower. Your biology is literally pushing you toward food. Poor sleep also changes the types of food you crave. Instead of reaching for healthy meals, your brain begins craving sugary snacks, fast food, and high-calorie comfort foods. Why? Because a tired brain wants quick energy. It searches for the fastest source of fuel it can find. Imagine you're exercising regularly, you're counting calories, you're following a strict diet, but you're only sleeping 5 hours every night. According to Walker, you're making your weight loss journey much harder than it needs to be. Sleep should stand beside nutrition and exercise as one of the 3 pillars of good health. Ignore any one of them, and the other 2 become less effective. Truth. Number 7. Sleep and mental health are deeply connected. Have you ever noticed how everything feels worse after a bad night's sleep? Small problems suddenly seem overwhelming. tiny frustrations become major arguments. Your patience disappears. Your emotions become harder to control. There's a scientific reason for that. Matthew Walker explains that sleep and mental health have a two-way relationship. Depression and anxiety can interfere with sleep. But poor sleep can also increase depression, anxiety, irritability, and emotional instability. It's a vicious cycle. What's especially fascinating is that sleep deprivation alone can trigger emotional problems, even in people with no history of mental illness. Studies have shown that healthy adults who are repeatedly deprived of sleep become more anxious, more emotionally reactive, and more easily overwhelmed. Then something remarkable happens. Once healthy sleep is restored, many of those emotional symptoms begin to improve. Walker also describes research in which participants were deliberately deprived of REM sleep. Without enough REM sleep, they became much more emotionally reactive. They overreacted to everyday situations. Their brains struggled to regulate emotions normally. This helps explain why people often become unusually impatient, angry or anxious after several nights of poor sleep. Sleep isn't simply a way to recover physically. Every night, it's also resetting your emotional balance. While you sleep, your brain carefully processes the emotional experiences of the day. It reduces the intensity of painful memories. It organizes your thoughts, and it prepares you to face tomorrow with a calmer, clearer mind. Without that nightly reset, yesterday's emotional stress carries straight into today, and eventually it begins piling up. That's why Matthew Walker calls sleep one of the most powerful forms of emotional therapy nature has ever created. Truth number 8, caffeine and alcohol are secret enemies of good sleep. If you're like most people, your morning probably starts with coffee. Maybe you grab another cup in the afternoon to stay productive. And sometimes, after a long day, you wind down with a glass of wine or a drink before bed. It feels harmless. In fact, it feels normal. But according to Matthew Walker, both caffeine and alcohol quietly sabotage your sleep in ways most people never realize. Let's start with caffeine. Many people assume that once they stop feeling energized, the caffeine has left their body. It hasn't. Caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours. That means if you drink a cup of coffee at 3 p.m., nearly half of that caffeine is still circulating in your body around 9 p.m. Even if you fall asleep without any trouble, your brain isn't getting the same quality of sleep. The caffeine continues blocking adenosine, the chemical that builds up throughout the day and creates the feeling of sleepiness. As a result, your sleep becomes lighter. You wake up more often, and your brain spends less time in the deep stages of sleep that are essential for recovery. The next morning, you wake up feeling tired. So what do? You drink more coffee. And without realizing it, you've entered a cycle that's difficult to escape. Poor sleep leads to more caffeine. More caffeine leads to poorer sleep. The cycle repeats itself day after day. Now let's talk about alcohol. Many people believe alcohol helps them sleep better. Technically, it helps you lose consciousness more quickly, but that's not the same thing as healthy sleep. Walker explains that alcohol is a sedative, not natural sleep. It suppresses many of the brain activities that normally happen throughout the night. Most importantly, alcohol significantly reduces REM sleep. Remember what REM sleep does. It's the stage responsible for emotional healing, creativity, learning, and processing memories. So while alcohol may help you fall asleep faster, it prevents your brain from doing some of its most important overnight work. You may spend 8 hours in bed, but your brain doesn't receive the full benefits of 8 hours of healthy sleep. That's why people often wake up after drinking, feeling mentally foggy, emotionally drained, and surprisingly tired. Sleep isn't just about how long you're unconscious. It's about the quality of the sleep your brain actually gets. Truth number 9. Your phone may be stealing your sleep. Think about your typical night. You brush your teeth, get into bed, then pick up your phone. Maybe you scroll through social media, watch a few videos, reply to a few messages. Before you know it, another hour has disappeared. It seems harmless, but according to Matthew Walker, your phone is sending your brain a powerful signal. Stay awake. Your body runs on an internal biological clock known as the circadian rhythm. For thousands of generations, that clock has been controlled by one simple thing: light. When the sun goes down and darkness arrives, your brain begins producing a hormone called melatonin. Melatonin tells your body it's time to prepare for sleep. Your heart rate slows, your body temperature drops, your brain starts transitioning into sleep mode. But then you stare directly into a bright phone screen. The blue light coming from phones, tablets, laptops, and television suppresses melatonin production. Your brain becomes confused. Instead of thinking it's nighttime, it believes morning has arrived. As a result, you don't feel sleepy. Even if you force yourself to sleep, the quality of that sleep often suffers. This is why so many people complain that they lie awake for an hour after getting into bed. It's not always stress. Sometimes it's simply too much artificial light. Walker recommends avoiding screens for at least 1 hour before bedtime whenever possible. If you absolutely must use a device, reduce the brightness or enable a blue light filter. It's not a perfect solution, but it's far better than exposing your brain to bright blue light right before sleep. He also emphasizes another often overlooked factor: room temperature. Your body needs to cool down before it can fall into deep sleep. Research suggests that a bedroom temperature around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or about 18 degrees Celsius is ideal for most people. A cool, dark, quiet room gives your brain the best possible environment for restorative sleep. Sometimes, improving your sleep isn't about buying expensive supplements or gadgets. Sometimes it's as simple as putting your phone away and turning off the lights. Truth matter 10. The biggest lie about sleep. Perhaps the most dangerous myth of all is this: I've gotten used to sleeping only 5 or 6 hours. You've probably heard someone say it. Maybe you've even said it yourself. People often wear sleep deprivation like a badge of honor. I only sleep 4 hours. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I don't need much sleep. According to Matthew Walker, that's one of the biggest misconceptions in modern society, because your brain doesn't actually adapt to chronic sleep deprivation. You simply lose the ability to recognize how impaired you've become. Imagine walking into a room where the lights slowly dim over several hours. Because the change happens gradually, you barely notice, until someone suddenly turns the lights back on. Only then do you realize how dark the room had become. Sleep deprivation works the same way. Your performance slowly declines. Your reaction time gets slower, your focus becomes weaker, your memory suffers, your decision-making becomes less reliable. But because the decline happens gradually, it feels normal. Walker describes studies in which participants were allowed only 6 hours of sleep each night for several days. Another group received only 4 hours. After a short time, Both groups insisted they were adapting. They believed they were functioning just fine. But objective testing told a completely different story. Their cognitive performance continued to decline every single day. They weren't improving, they were getting worse. They just couldn't see it. That's what makes chronic sleep deprivation so dangerous. It doesn't only reduce your performance, it hides the fact that your performance has been reduced. Imagine believing you're operating at 100% while you're actually functioning at 70%. You'd never know. And that's exactly the problem. The greatest danger isn't feeling tired, it's believing you're not. That's why Matthew Walker urges us to stop treating sleep like optional downtime, because the cost of ignoring sleep is often invisible until the consequences become impossible to ignore. Truth 11. Simple habits that can transform your sleep. By now, one thing should be clear. Sleep isn't a luxury. It's one of the most important investments you can make in your health. The good news is that improving your sleep doesn't require expensive gadgets or miracle supplements. According to Matthew Walker, a few simple habits can make a dramatic difference. The first, and most important, is consistency. Go to bed at the same time every night. Wake up at the same time every morning. Yes, even on weekends. Your body loves routine. When you keep a consistent schedule, your internal clock becomes more stable. Over time, you'll find yourself falling asleep faster and waking up with more energy, often without an alarm. The second habit is creating a screen-free wind-down routine. We've already talked about blue light, but this point is worth repeating because it's that important. About an hour before bed, put your phone away. Turn off the TV. Close your laptop. Instead, read a book. Listen to calming music. Stretch gently. Meditate, or simply sit quietly and allow your mind to slow down. Your brain needs time to transition from the fast pace of the day into restful sleep. The third habit is optimizing your bedroom. Keep it cool. Keep it dark. Keep it quiet. If outside light enters your room, consider blackout curtains. If noise is a problem, try earplugs or a white noise machine. Even small changes to your sleep environment can significantly improve sleep quality. The fourth habit is limiting caffeine later in the day. That afternoon, coffee may seem harmless. But because caffeine stays in your body for hours, it can quietly interfere with your sleep long after you've stopped feeling alert. If possible, avoid caffeine after early afternoon. It may be difficult at first, but after a week or two, many people notice they fall asleep faster and wake up feeling much more refreshed. Finally, create a relaxing bedtime ritual. Your nervous system needs a signal that the day is ending. Deep breathing, gentle stretching, reading, prayer, journaling, whatever helps you relax. The goal isn't to force yourself to sleep. The goal is to create the conditions that allow sleep to happen naturally. Small habits repeated every night produce powerful results over time. Truth 12. Why teenagers need more sleep than adults. Realize. If you've ever tried waking a teenager early in the morning, you've probably wondered why it's so difficult. Many parents assume teenagers are simply lazy. Matthew Walker says that's not true. It's biology. During adolescence, the body's circadian rhythm naturally shifts later. Teenagers don't become sleepy until later at night. And naturally, they also need to wake up later in the morning. This isn't a lack of discipline. It's how the teenage brain develops. The problem is that most schools start very early. As a result, millions of teenagers live in a constant state of sleep deprivation. The consequences extend far beyond feeling tired. Learning becomes harder. memory suffers, emotional health declines, stress increases, and even the risk of depression rises. Walker argues that many schools should begin later in the morning to better match teenagers' biological clocks. Several school districts that adopted later start times reported impressive improvements. Students became more alert. Academic performance improved, attendance increased, and overall well-being got better. If you're a parent, one of the greatest gifts you can give your child isn't another tutoring session. It might simply be protecting their sleep. Encourage consistent bedtimes. Limit screens before bed. And remember that enough sleep isn't a reward. It's a biological necessity for healthy development. Truth 13. Why we dream. Dreams have fascinated humanity for thousands of years. Some people think they're random. Others believe they carry hidden meanings. Matthew Walker offers a different perspective. Dreams serve important biological functions. During REM sleep, your brain is remarkably busy. First, it strengthens memories. The experiences of your day are organized and transferred into long-term storage. Connections form between old knowledge and new experiences. That's one reason people often wake up with fresh ideas or unexpected solutions to difficult problems. Your brain has been working on them all night. Dreaming also helps heal emotional pain. During REM sleep, your brain revisits difficult memories in a unique chemical environment. Stress hormones are greatly reduced. That allows painful experiences to be processed without triggering the same intense emotional reaction. Over time, the emotional weight of those memories begins to fade. You still remember what happened, but it hurts less. Walker explains that this process may help explain why people gradually recover from emotional trauma. It also explains why conditions like PTSD are often associated with disrupted REM sleep. When REM sleep is interrupted, emotional healing becomes much more difficult. Have you ever noticed that after something painful happens, it often feels slightly easier after a few nights of good sleep? That's not because you've forgotten. It's because your brain has quietly begun the healing process while you were asleep. Dreaming isn't wasted time. It's one of the ways your brain repairs itself. Final thoughts. By now, the message of why we sleep should be impossible to ignore. This isn't just a book about getting more rest. It's a wake-up call. Matthew Walker reminds us that every time we sacrifice sleep, we aren't gaining extra hours of productivity. We're trading away our health, our memory, our creativity, our emotional stability, our relationships, and ultimately, years of our lives. Modern culture often celebrates people who sleep less. Being busy has become a badge of honor. Pulling all-nighters is treated like a sign of dedication, but according to the science, that's one of the biggest lies we've ever accepted. The people who consistently protect their sleep aren't lazy. They're giving their brains and bodies exactly what they were designed to need. So tonight, make one simple change. Just one. Put your phone away an hour before bed. Turn off the screens. Dim the lights. Give your brain the opportunity to do what it has evolved to do for millions of years. You may be surprised by how much your life changes from that one small decision, because better sleep doesn't just give you better nights, it gives you better days, better decisions, better health, and ultimately, a better life. If you enjoyed this summary and learned something valuable, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more life-changing book summaries every week. And before you go, leave a comment below. How many hours do you usually sleep each night? And after everything you've learned today, what's the very first sleep habit you're going to change?